It sort of rehashed old revelations with a new twist. As it turns out, we've apparently been wrong all along. Britain is a nasty, racist hellhole where only magnificent Meghan stood up to all this, and the world's biggest victim.
This was never supposed to surface. What's happening right now was meant to stay buried, locked away behind money, power, and silence. The California dream is collapsing in real time, and Prince Harry knows it. Sources say he's scrambling, quietly preparing to leave Montecito, not for a vacation, not for healing, but for cover. Institutional cover. The same system he publicly attacked, mocked, and tried to burn down is suddenly the one he may be running back to. And the timing couldn't be worse.
Maxwell was just sentenced to 20 years behind bars for her part in grooming young girls to sexually service Jeffrey Epstein and his friends.
Just as Harry's exit plans begin to leak, Piers Morgan drops images that send shockwaves across both sides of the Atlantic. These aren't nostalgic throwbacks. They aren't party snapshots you can laugh off. They're yacht photos, clear, deliberate, and deeply uncomfortable. They show Meghan Markle embedded in elite social environments tied to a world the public now understands far better than it once did. A world later exposed through the Epstein-Maxwell scandal, the same ecosystem that erased Prince Andrew from public life. Suddenly, Harry's carefully curated California bubble looks paper-thin. This isn't just embarrassment, it's vulnerability. Harry once mocked Morgan, dismissed him publicly, and triggered a wave of complaints aimed at silencing him. ITV was flooded. Social media exploded. But then came the twist. Behind the scenes, Meghan allegedly reached out directly to Morgan's employers, pressuring them to shut him down as the questions became impossible to ignore. Morgan didn't blink. Why? Because, by his own account, what he's been sitting on for years is far heavier than a few photos. And now those materials are starting to surface. The yacht images don't exist in isolation. They place Meghan inside a repeating pattern. Verified appearances at exclusive Soho House openings across the globe, including Istanbul in 2015. Insiders from those events described her role using a very specific term, social filler. That isn't an insult. In elite circles, social fillers are carefully selected, polished, charming figures placed early in private settings to establish mood before serious power players arrive. No cameras, no records, maximum discretion. And the pattern doesn't stop there. International flights, five-star hotels, luxury yachts worth tens of millions. Relentless movement through circles packed with billionaires, financiers, and political power brokers across multiple countries, across multiple years. Here's where the math breaks. At the time, Meghan was a supporting actress on Suits. A stable cable role, yes, but nowhere near the income required to sustain private jets, Mediterranean yachts, and non-stop luxury access. A comfortable salary does not buy an heiress lifestyle. So the questions started forming quietly. Who paid? Who opened the doors? Who made the introductions? These circles don't operate on luck. Outsiders don't wander in. No crimes were alleged, no accusations made. Instead, people did something far more dangerous. They remembered. They noticed patterns. They archived details and waited. And when that same woman from those yacht photos suddenly appeared beside a prince, waving from palace balconies wrapped in royal branding, those old memories snapped into focus. Then comes the name that changes everything, Ghislaine Maxwell. She is now serving a 20-year sentence in a federal prison. Her network is gone, her money is gone, her protection is gone, and that's exactly why prosecutors pay attention, because people with nothing left to lose suddenly start talking. Not hints, not whispers, names, timelines, connections. This is where the Soho House bridge becomes impossible to ignore. Publicly, it was sold as a creative hub. Privately, its international locations functioned as controlled intersections, where Hollywood met global finance, where new money mingled with aristocracy, and where discretion was currency. And Meghan, according to multiple insiders, was flown internationally to help set that tone. Not front and center, not headline grabbing, just present, perfectly placed to make influential guests feel comfortable. Then came the moment whispers turned serious. During the civil case brought by Virginia Giuffre, the lawsuit that dismantled Prince Andrew's standing, Meghan's name reportedly came close to entering the courtroom, not as a defendant, but as a potential witness. Witnesses aren't accused, they're relevant. Investigators flagged her for 3 reasons. She lived in the US. She overlapped socially with Prince Andrew during a sensitive period. And she had moved within Epstein's broader social ecosystem while illegal activity was actively occurring. She was never called. The case settled before that step, but the damage wasn't the outcome. It was the fact that federal investigators even considered her testimony relevant. That near miss should have been a warning. Instead, it disappeared beneath fairy tale headlines, royal weddings, and non-stop spectacle. Now, years later, as Maxwell speaks from prison and Morgan releases photographic proof that almost looks far less accidental, Montecito, once sold as paradise, is unraveling fast. The local elite has iced the Sussexes out completely. Charity invites vanished. Dinner parties quietly removed their names. The town that protects real privacy doesn't tolerate constant controversy, and the financial pressure is crushing. Netflix is done. Spotify collapsed. Staff fled the Archwell Foundation in waves. The mansion bleeds cash. Security costs soar. And just as all of this converges, the yacht photos are everywhere. Geography won't fix this. Lawyers won't erase it. Silence won't bury it. Because when patterns resurface, and people who once stayed quiet stop protecting, you don't outrun that. You only delay it. Meghan's pregnancy, as it played out in public, slowly stopped looking like a straightforward journey and started resembling a sequence of moments that didn't quite line up. One appearance would show a pronounced baby bump, carefully supported, her movements slow and deliberate, her posture guarded. Then, just days later, sometimes even sooner, the bump appeared smaller, positioned differently while her body language shifted dramatically. This wasn't a matter of normal month-to-month change. These were short windows of time, days, in some cases the same week. At one event, she appeared physically restricted, walking cautiously. At another, she moved freely, climbing stairs, bending with ease, pivoting sharply, even walking confidently in high heels. Video footage from multiple public appearances revealed physical contrasts that many found hard to reconcile with a typical pregnancy timeline. At the time, most people chose not to ask questions. The fairy tale atmosphere was too strong. The wedding glow, the global excitement, the narrative of a modern royal love story pushed skepticism into the background. But now, with new yacht photos circulating worldwide and previously silent figures beginning to speak, those old questions are resurfacing, and they're impossible to ignore. Adding to the confusion were claims that surfaced quietly years ago about internal scheduling records. According to those claims, royal planning documents reportedly listed medical appointments on days when independent photographers captured Meghan attending public events miles away. Not minor overlaps, entire days where official paperwork and photographic evidence appeared to contradict each other. Of course, schedules can change, records can be updated, public appearances can be rearranged. But there's one reality that doesn't bend. A person cannot physically be in two places at the same time, and pregnancy timelines don't stretch or compress to accommodate public messaging. Either the documentation was wrong, or the public presentation was carefully managed around something else, and neither explanation sits comfortably. Then came the moment that unsettled even longtime supporters, the promised home birth that never happened. Through trusted palace channels, Meghan had indicated she planned a private home birth at Frogmore Cottage, natural, intimate, quiet. The public accepted that explanation without hesitation. Plenty of women choose home births. But when May 6, 2019 arrived, the story abruptly changed. No home birth, no Frogmore. Instead, Meghan gave birth at the Portland Hospital, a location never previously mentioned. There was no official explanation, no clarification, no statement addressing the sudden shift, no mention of medical complications, no emergency narrative, just silence. That silence forced people to rewind everything they'd been told before and confront a question no one wanted to ask at the time: how much of the story was ever fully accurate? This is where the parallel that deeply unsettles Prince Harry begins to emerge. Harry watched his uncle's downfall unfold in real time. Prince Andrew didn't lose everything because of rumors or tabloid speculation. He lost it because of sworn testimony, because allegations entered the legal record, because once statements were given under oath and photographs were authenticated, the narrative collapsed instantly. That's how scandals actually end, not through headlines, not through PR statements, but through depositions, records, and testimony under penalty of perjury. Andrew became the living cautionary tale inside the royal family. Every royal understands this lesson. Silence and institutional protection can work for years, until the moment someone speaks under oath. Once subpoenas are issued, once investigators start asking questions formally, no protocol can reverse the damage. And that's the question now hovering over everything. What did Harry know, and when did he know it? If Harry was aware of the yacht circuit, the elite networking environments, the proximity to Epstein-linked social spaces, and chose to minimize or overlook it, then the situation becomes far more dangerous than bad press. That's legal risk. That's moral collapse. If he didn't know, if he entered the marriage unaware, misled, or willfully blind, then he may have tied his future to a reality that now threatens everything he built in California, and possibly the last remaining threads of trust with his family. Either way, the fairy tale is over, and the irony is brutal. The institution he once publicly branded as toxic, the family he accused of cruelty, the system he blamed for years of emotional damage. That same institution now appears to be his only remaining refuge. And that's why the sudden movement matters. That's why Montecito is being quietly abandoned. That's why the California dream, sold as freedom, independence, and healing, now looks like it's collapsing under its own weight. Because when someone spends years rejecting a system and then suddenly runs back toward it, people notice. The silence surrounding all of this is deafening. The questions aren't fading, they're multiplying. And for anyone paying attention, the timing feels impossible to ignore. Multiple narratives are colliding all at once, and none of them exist in isolation anymore. There are the newly resurfaced yacht photographs, now circulating widely, placing Meghan in elite international social environments that, in hindsight, overlap with figures and networks later examined during the Epstein and Maxwell investigations. No accusations are being made, but proximity, timing, and repetition are what investigators and journalists tend to examine first. There is also the reality that Ghislaine Maxwell is now serving a lengthy prison sentence and, according to multiple reports, has begun speaking openly with authorities. When individuals reach a point where reputation, influence, and leverage are gone, cooperation becomes a different calculation entirely. At the same time, unresolved questions from the past are resurfacing. Pregnancy timelines that were never clearly explained. Public appearances that seemed inconsistent. Birth announcements that felt more like corporate press releases than intimate family moments. Internal palace confusion that quietly embarrassed the institution at the time and was never fully addressed. Add to that the complete internal collapse of the Archewell Foundation. High-level staff departures, short tenures, professionals walking away from roles they had uprooted their lives for. In any organization, that kind of turnover sends a signal. In a high-profile public foundation, it sends a warning. But above all of this, one detail stands taller than the rest. Meghan Markle has said nothing. No formal statements, no clarifications, no legal pushback, no public denial, no friendly surrogates stepping forward. This is the same figure who previously pursued legal action over far smaller stories. The same figure whose allies routinely brief sympathetic outlets. The same figure who reportedly contacted network executives behind the scenes when uncomfortable questions were raised. And yet now, silence. Silence doesn't automatically mean guilt, but it rarely means confidence either. In the court of public perception, silence often signals limitation, an inability to respond cleanly, a risk assessment that speaking could do more harm than good. Prince Harry's response may be even louder than words. He isn't defending publicly. He isn't threatening legal action. He isn't confronting critics head-on. Instead, he appears to be physically retreating toward the very institution he once condemned. If these allegations were easily disproven, wouldn't legal letters already be flying? Wouldn't retractions be demanded? Wouldn't he stand beside his wife loudly and visibly? Instead, there is quiet withdrawal, and the movement back toward London that speaks volumes on its own. History shows that when powerful people stop talking and start repositioning, it's often because pressure is building behind the scenes. At this point, Harry appears to face only two possible realities, and neither is comfortable. Either he knew about parts of Meghan's past that are now resurfacing and believed they would remain buried, placing him in a position of minimization or quiet complicity. Or he didn't know, and entered a marriage without full awareness of histories that now threaten everything he gave up his former life for. There is no easy third option. The royal institution may step in to protect Harry, because protecting him protects the crown itself. History makes that clear, but history also shows something else. When pressure peaks, institutions protect bloodlines first. Outsiders are rarely prioritized, and as Montecito fades from view and more material continues to surface, it's becoming clear this reckoning isn't hypothetical or distant. Once sworn testimony begins. Once names are spoken under oath. Once records become permanent, no relocation can undo that. No rebrand can erase it. No protocol can unring bells already heard by investigators. The yacht photos exist. The historical overlaps are documented. The near-witness consideration in past civil cases is part of the public record. And now, voices that once stayed silent are beginning to speak. The California dream is over. The fairy tale is fractured. The only question left is this: When formal proceedings begin and testimony is taken, who gets protected and who gets sacrificed? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like this video, subscribe for ongoing updates, and share it with someone who's been following this story. Because this isn't slowing down, and what comes next may change everything.